Actually, the groom slept with me.
Yolanda said this with such enthusiasm that it seemed like she might follow up with, "Yay." The room was in complete chaos. I could see my parents at a nearby table, looking like they were about to faint. However, despite the surrounding commotion, my mind regained its calm. Barry slept with Yolanda? No way, that can't be true, because I am Melissa McCarthy, a typical 28-year-old who graduated from a decently ranked college and now works in a clerical position at a major trading company. I wasn't exactly a failure, but I've always been average for better or worse. My academics were average, my athletic abilities were average, and my social life was average. I had no significant problems, but nothing particularly praiseworthy or outstanding either. This didn't change as I grew up. Despite my efforts, my work performance is average, and so are my housekeeping skills. Thinking back, my upbringing was pretty average too. A typical middle-class upbringing with parents working regular jobs. I went to college on a scholarship, so until recently, I have been paying back a fixed amount every month. I'm not unhappy about that, and I'm really grateful to my parents for raising me. However, my entire life has been completely ordinary. On the other hand, my best friend Yolanda Foster has lived a life completely opposite to mine. Yolanda is a colleague from my company. We became friends because we were the only two women assigned to the same department after joining the company. We had a transition from just being close to becoming true friends thanks to Yolanda's personality. Unlike me, she is cheerful and sociable, never shy around people. She graduated from a prestigious university and was even a runner-up in a beauty contest. Despite her family's wealth and owning a company, she isn't stuck up at all. Sure, she's confident and dates handsome guys from top companies, but she's capable at her job and always attracting attention because of her charm. She's also considerate and proactive. She's different from me. Maybe I'm just envious of Yolanda. Even though I consider her my best friend, thinking about our differences always makes me feel uneasy. With a sigh, I press the enter key harder than necessary. After 5 years at the company, even if I'm not very efficient, I'm used to the work. So, even while lost in thought, my fingers keep typing on the keyboard. Then, I feel a light tap on the back of my head.
Hey, Melissa, what's with the sigh? Frustrated?
It didn't hurt at all, but I turn around in my chair, rubbing the back of my head. Yolanda is standing there with a rolled-up document in her hand. Yolanda.
Seriously, you haven't made any progress with your work? You're so inefficient. Lunch is in 30 minutes.
Yolanda peeks at my desk and comments with a look of exasperation. I'm used to hearing this, but today it stings a bit. Wow, it's that late already? I need to hurry. I check the clock in a panic and get back to work. I have to finish this by 3 p.m.
Hey, where are we going for lunch?
Oh, sorry. I don't have time for lunch today.
What? You're behind on your work. Come on, let's go. The Italian place on Oak Street.
Wait, but I really don't have time. Before I can finish, Yolanda is already gone, walking briskly out of the office, probably heading to the restroom. Her neatly curled chestnut hair sways behind her slim back. Several male employees stop working to watch her leave. She's so pushy. That's her spoiled side showing. I think to myself, feeling it's no wonder I complain. Yolanda's bad habit is not listening to others. But I know she means well. Maybe she's trying to cheer me up and take me out for a change of pace since I'm clearly struggling with my work. I pulled myself together and focused on my work for the next 30 minutes until lunch break. Yolanda's favorite Italian restaurant is a 5-minute walk from the office. It's a stylish place with delicious food, quite different from the typical lunch spots for office ladies, fitting for someone like Yolanda. A $30 lunch? I would never come here alone.
I really want a boyfriend. We're 28 already, right? It's about time to get married and leave the company. Oh, Melissa, you have a boyfriend, right?
Despite her casual tone, she skillfully handles the knife and fork. I twirl some pasta around my fork, impressed by her upbringing showing through in moments like this. Yeah, I do. I reply, suddenly remembering something. Oh, right. I'm getting married next month. As I continue in the same tone, Yolanda's smooth movements come to a sudden halt.
What?
Yolanda's surprised voice drowns out the elegant classical music playing in the background.
Wait, I didn't know about that. When did this happen?
Well, he just proposed last week, and I haven't had the chance to tell you.
By the way, what kind of guy is your boyfriend? I don't think I've heard about him before.
Her eyes, framed by thick lashes, glare at me resentfully. Even though she says she hasn't heard about him, it's really because she never listened to my stories. Used to this by now, I brush off my irritation with a sigh and start explaining about my boyfriend. He graduated from the top university in the country and currently works at a top-tier company. We've been dating for 2 years since we met at work, and it's been a calm and steady relationship. Being with him makes me feel secure, and most importantly, I can be myself around him. However, as I approached 30, I started to worry about whether we would just continue dating or eventually get married. At that moment, as if he could read my mind, he proposed. So, Yolanda, I was wondering if you could give a speech at the wedding. Would you? I confide in Yolanda something I've been thinking about since the proposal. Her response is a bit reluctant, but she agrees. Given her pride, she might not be thrilled that her best friend is getting married before her. But as I naively thought that, I didn't notice the strained look on Yolanda's face. On the wedding day, Yolanda came to the waiting room before the ceremony started.
Congratulations, Melissa.
She walked in with a smile, looking so beautiful that she could outshine the bride. Since my groom, Barry, was there, I thought it was a good opportunity to introduce them. Thank you, Yolanda. This is my husband, Barry. Barry, this is my best friend, Yolanda.
Nice to meet you. I'm Barry Klein. Melissa has told me a lot about you. Thank you for coming today.
Barry smiled warmly at Yolanda and bowed his head.
Nice to meet you. I'm Yolanda Foster. Melissa, when did you catch such a handsome guy?
She replied in her usual tone, smiling back at Barry. After that, I expected her to stick around, finding excuses to stay longer, but she left the room quickly. I felt a slight sense of unease at her behavior. What's going on? Yolanda has been acting a bit distant since I told her about the wedding. As I stared at the door Yolanda left through, lost in thought, Barry murmured,
What's up with her?
Huh? I looked up to see him with a puzzled expression, his hand on his chin as if deep in thought. When I asked what was wrong, he said he also felt something was off with Yolanda.
When she saw my face, she looked surprised for a moment. Have we met somewhere before?
Even as he said that, he didn't seem to recall anything. Yolanda is a striking beauty, so it's unlikely he's confusing her with someone else. Though we both felt something was off, we couldn't find an answer, and the wedding reception began. The large venue was filled with round tables, and everyone, familiar and unfamiliar, wore smiles. As I surveyed the room from the head table, the reality of getting married slowly sank in. I had always thought I'd never get married. An ordinary life, an ordinary day-to-day existence. I didn't know if not getting married was normal or not, but I had always imagined I'd live alone. Until I met Barry. The reception proceeded smoothly, and it was time for the friend's speech. I unconsciously looked at Yolanda. She stood up gracefully and walked towards us, her heels clicking on the floor. Wow, she's gorgeous, and is she a celebrity? Were among the whispers I heard. For some reason, instead of feeling inferior as usual, I felt proud of the compliments Yolanda received today. I looked up at Yolanda as she stood at the microphone, feeling unusually calm. She looked even more beautiful than usual today. I hope she finds a good guy soon, though it might be hard for her to choose because she's so picky. As I was thinking that, she suddenly looked at me with a mischievous glint in her eye.
Melissa, congratulations. I was debating whether to say this, but I don't want to hide anything from my best friend, and I don't want it to come out after the wedding and cause trouble, so I'll say it.
With that preface, Yolanda smiled brightly. Huh? The room started to buzz. My calm heart was suddenly thrown into turmoil. What is she going to say? When I turned to look at Barry, he looked just as confused. Barry glanced at me as if he had no idea what was happening. In hindsight, I should have stopped Yolanda then.
Actually, the groom slept with me.
Yolanda declared this with such an almost celebratory tone that it seemed like she might follow up with yay. The room descended into chaos. I could see my parents at a nearby table, looking like they were about to faint. However, despite the surrounding chaos, my mind regained its calm. Barry slept with Yolanda? No way, that can't be true, because he... Yolanda, what are you talking about?
Sorry, I can't keep secrets. It's exactly what I said. We slept together.
That's impossible.
Huh?
Yolanda's beautiful face twisted into a mocking smile. It was no longer beautiful at all. Because my husband.
I'm gay.
Barry's voice overlapped with mine.
What?
The microphone picked up Yolanda's dumbfounded voice. The room was in an uproar, and it was hard to tell who was saying what. Yolanda stood there, stunned. The speech was no longer the focus. At that moment, the door swung open with a bang, and a man burst in.
Barry, sorry I'm late.
The man at the entrance looked exactly like the groom. Yolanda looked back and forth between the man and Barry, speechless.
Glad I made it, but what's with the mood here?
The man walked towards us, puzzled by the atmosphere. As he approached, he noticed Yolanda and called out.
Hey, long time no see. What are you doing here?
He raised his hand and greeted Yolanda casually.
Wait a minute. What? 2 berries? What's going on?
Yolanda, who had been so assertive moments ago, now sat down weakly. Finally understanding the situation, I got up and walked over to Yolanda. Actually, Fred and my husband Barry are identical twins. At first glance, they look like the same person. But if you look closely, you can see their different personalities in their eyes. Barry, the older brother, has gentle eyes, while his younger brother, Fred, has a mischievous look. But unless you're close to them, it's hard to tell them apart. Unlike his brother, Fred graduated from high school and has been working part-time since. He's sociable and good at interviews, but he keeps quitting jobs and looking for new ones. Fred also has a complicated relationship with women. He often pretends to be his brother and dates multiple women, causing trouble for Barry. However, because Fred is likable and Barry is forgiving, they have a good relationship. Yolanda. I gently placed my hand on Yolanda's shoulder as she sat on the floor, dejected. Yolanda had made an outrageous confession at my wedding. In the end, it was a misunderstanding and she ended up ruining herself. But she tried to trample on my happiness. However, I didn't know what to feel towards her. After all, this was the first time I had seen her so crushed. I realized now that I had always admired Yolanda, who was full of confidence despite everything.
I'm sorry for the disturbance. That was a prank planned by her and me. I'm not good at such things, and I apologize for the awkward atmosphere.
Barry tried to smooth things over. The room, which had been buzzing, gradually calmed down, and I could hear people murmuring. So it was a prank. Regardless of how well the follow-up was, he was trying to look out for Yolanda, who had embarrassed herself in front of everyone.
But it is true that I am gay. And it is also true that I love Melissa.
From there, Barry spoke confidently. Yes, Barry is gay. When we got to know each other and started to grow closer, he told me himself. I was surprised and shocked, but he told me he still wanted to be with me. Despite having only been attracted to men, Barry grew to love me as a person, beyond gender. It's a little different from romantic love, but he respects me deeply as a soulmate and as a person. His feelings settled into my heart. It was certainly shocking to have my previous notions overturned. But love is not only about romance. I felt a growing desire to respond to his feelings. I decided to love everything about him, his career, his good looks, his pure-hearted nature, and the fact that he sincerely faced his identity as a gay man while loving me. When Barry finished his speech, the room was filled with warm applause. Looking at my parents, I saw my father clapping hard with tears in his eyes and my mother pressing a tissue to her eyes. Dad, Mom, I'm going to be happy with him. The ceremony smoothly moved on to the entertainment portion. As I was about to ask Yolanda to return to her seat, she shook off my hand and whispered weakly,
What is this? This is stupid. I'm leaving.
Yolanda. She staggered to her feet and walked unsteadily toward the exit. I couldn't bring myself to follow her. On her way out, Yolanda passed by Fred, who had been sitting during Barry's speech. He called out to her,
Oh, you're leaving already. Oh, what's your name again? I forgot, but let's hang out again. I don't need a girlfriend right now, just friends.
That was the final blow for Yolanda.
Oh man, Wara.
She cried out like a child and dashed out of the venue. Yolanda. I called after her, but she didn't look back. Somehow, the ceremony ended successfully, and Barry and I went on our honeymoon. After a long break, when I returned to work, Yolanda was gone. I heard that she had requested a transfer right after our wedding. While I felt a bit let down, I was also somewhat relieved because it would have been awkward to face her. So, what happened to Yolanda after that? It seemed she was so shocked by being deceived by Fred that her flashy lifestyle completely changed. She had been manipulating men and cheating without a care, but when she was the one betrayed, she quickly developed a distrust of men. Time has passed since then, and now several years have gone by since I turned 30. Yolanda is still single and hasn't been able to get married. Furthermore, the story of her speech at my wedding spread among our colleagues, and the people who used to fawn over her became distant. Her prideful nature meant even the younger colleagues didn't warm up to her, leaving her completely isolated and in the position of an office queen bee. As for me, I've drifted apart from Yolanda since the wedding, but I continue to work and live happily with Barry. Though we sleep in separate bedrooms, our hearts are undeniably close, and we can proudly say that we are each other's only partner. Marrying Barry made me realize what true love is for the first time. I look back and wonder what those days of lamenting about my ordinary life were for, as I am now so incredibly happy every single day.